And welcome back to the Los Angeles Athletic Club in beautiful Southern California, where the stars are out. We're in downtown LA for this WPH Simple Green
Serving
Race for
first
8
from
men's
Minnesota,
round
we
of
got
16.
Andy Nett.
Here's the announcement from
And
the
then
referee.
retrieving the serve, we got Peixoto from Boston, California, who apparently has a new CD called Unattainable. So if you want a copy, just talk to him, and I heard he's signing autographs.
Referee
Okay, let's play ball.
giving some free pub.
Zero, play zero.
Emmett Peixoto. Emmett Peixoto has a brand new CD called Unattainable, and he's got those CDs here at the event. He'll autograph them, and you can purchase his music. In the meantime, it's Andy Nett from Winona, Minnesota, serving at 1-0. It's best 2 out of 3 to 25. You have to win by 2. It's rally scoring. The third game also played to 25.
2, play 0.
And if Andy Nett gets that serve going, Dave, followed by the first strike, which we've just seen, this could be a very entertaining match, Dave, and this really could go either way. The Andy Nett from November and October of 2011 was one of the top 5 players I've ever seen. We haven't seen that same Andy Nett thus far early in 2012, but if he can reestablish that kind of game, Dave, it could be Andy Nett's day here, solidifying his spot in Seattle. Andy Nett is one of these guys, Dave, that's played in every stop. He's committed himself. And it would be great and very deserving for him were he able to qualify for Seattle. And right now you see Emmett really struggling to catch up to the pace of the Andy Nett ball.
Let's watch us serve here from Andy Nett.
4, play 0.
Quickly 4-0 here, Dave, for Andy Nett. Emmett has not been in the service box yet. And look at that amazing serve. And the inside-out reinvention fly kill. Absolutely amazing, Dave. When Andy Nett's taking the ball out of the air, he's unstoppable on the return of serve.
5, play 0.
Now we're at 5-0 here in the opening moments, and he hits the ball into the ground, and there's a point for Emmett Peixoto. Strange reversal, and you might want to mark that down on your scorecard, and I know you do this.
1, play 5.
As this could change things just a bit. You know that when you were a young child learning to play handball, Dave, and you would get into those moments where you just
play 1.
were so focused on playing, your dad would have to come into the court and pull you off.
Amazing serve and kill shot from Andy Nett.
Go ahead, Dave.
Okay.
You get up so obsessed with something, your dad would come in and go like that, and that would break your concentration. Well, I believe that could have happened to Andy Nett there, but it didn't.
Took a long way to get there,
well,
but we're there finally.
I was trying to make eye contact with you. You just wouldn't look at me.
Well, that actually never happened with me growing up, so I was trying to put myself in a position to relate.
Second serve.
Andy Nett just serving bullets down the right wall right now. And there's a double fault. Emmett's earned both of his points on Andy Nett double faults.
Strange way to get
2, play 7.
your points.
We've never seen that before on the Race Freight Pro Tour.
That's short.
Not only a player, Dave, winning his first point with a double fault, but winning both of his points with a double fault.
Well, if we have line judges, this one could be replayed.
And you do not want to give Emmett Peixoto looks with his left hand in that front court. Andy could have done anything with that ball. He put it right on Emmett's hand.
3, play 7. Short.
Don't forget, Dave, Emmett's only earned 1 point thus far. He was given 2 points. So Andy Nett leads 7-3, but Emmett Peixoto has only executed 1 kill shot. And this is kind of the playbook on Andy Nett, Dave, as Andy Nett sends one out.
That's a replay.
Of the top back right corner. But the playbook, Dave, on Andy Nett is that if you force him to play that high game where he's not comfortable and he can't use his power, it takes him out of his game, and he starts making a lot of mistakes. We'll see if Emmett is able to do that here. Beautiful shot from Andy, Dave, and hit that with the perfect hop on it away from Emmett. And Dave, I know you and I remember the only time these guys played was on a 3-wall court in Kansas City, where it was Andy Nett just hitting ace after ace down that right wall at about 110 miles per hour on those cement courts at the KCAC. And Emmett said, I've never seen anything like that serve in my life. Emmett ended up winning that match, but not before being aced 14 times in both games.
10 plays 3.
And he's finding that the 4-wall Andy Nett is no different. He's got the same serve. And Andy gives Emmett another opportunity with his left, and Emmett puts it away. Andy's had a lot of success keeping the ball to Emmett's right and shooting the ball to the right.
4 plays 10.
And Dave, if you don't think Andy Nett takes this seriously, he was here at the club this morning at 9 a.m. going through his original hit around.
Yeah, he
at
told
9.
Me that he said this is the round that he needs to get through right here. He said, I'm not even thinking about winning in the quarterfinals. I'm not thinking about going to the semis. I want to win this round. He said he's on his 3rd workout this morning already.
Short.
He woke up this morning doing band exercises and working his abs.
Second serve.
And he said, I don't normally like to do that before a match because it burns me out, but it also relaxes me during my serves. Andy Nett's focused.
Well, that's intimidating and also exciting.
5 plays 11.
Well, it's intimidating, but Emmett doesn't know about it.
Right.
It might be intimidating for those that have to play into him.
I think it's inspirational, too. And Emmett's won every rally here with his left hand. Every point that he's won, aside from the double faults, have been with his left.
6 play 11.
And I know, David, Andy Nett, much like Luis Cordova, knows the rankings inside and out. He knows exactly what he needs to do to guarantee himself a spot in Seattle. Some guys, Dave, would actually like to know, helps them play better knowing their goal. But other guys, Dave, I think it puts a little bit of extra pressure on them, takes away from their game, potentially.
True.
And that was a strange rally there as both guys hitting a couple of mishit nearly kills, and Andy Nett closes in and blasts a kill down the right wall.
Now, Dave, Emmett Peixoto for years has been known as the get artist, probably one of the very best, top 3. You put Andy Nett above him now because we've seen more Andy Nett?
No, I still put Emmett there. Andy Nett's got amazing closing speed, but he misplays balls from time to time, particularly balls that go into the corner. He's gets himself in a bad position. Emmett plays the ball extremely well.
So Emmett would be one of those players that Tommy Burnett would talk about who gets the ball or is the ball or
blends with the ball.
Blends.
Yes. I would say
the ball.
So. Yes.
But Andy is a get artist.
Yeah,
I mean, don't get me wrong. These two matching up in just that realm alone makes for an exciting match on paper. But then you throw Andy's power in there versus Emmett. And I don't know if Emmett's really seen that much during this race of what a great serve looks like.
Well, Emmett did play Sean Lenning in his first race stop after beating Tommy Little and could not return the Sean Lenning serve in the first game.
Hold it, football, short.
I've noticed Emmett in this Emmett 3.0. I'm not sure which comeback this is, Dave, but he started very slowly with his feet. And as the match wears on, he starts to make a lot more gets, but he doesn't make as many great gets early in the match. Almost as though he's warming up. I'm surprised Andy Nett took that out of the air.
Andy does have a good left, but it's usually good when he's fading away. He has a tremendous right off the back wall with a ton of power. And Emmett felt.
Andy's got what I call, Dave, a clutch left. He seems to make the most amazing left-handed kills when he needs them under pressure.
14 plays 8.
Andy Nett serving first game, 14-8.
This is the best I've seen Andy Nett play, Dave, since Tucson. Race stop number 3. Andy looks really good right now.
Well, Andy has been playing injured, Dave. He hurt his shoulder. He played in a tournament that used a different set of rules, and he ended up hurting his shoulder, and that was about 3 tournaments ago, and he just hasn't been the same, but he said he's starting to feel better. He's doing some, like I said, those band exercises to loosen up that shoulder. Sean Lenning also said he started doing band exercises and some yoga routines
16 plays 8
to stretch out his hamstrings and his legs so he can bend down and take better shots. These guys, like you said earlier when you're talking about Cordova, doing different techniques like Vic Perez, our referee, who was underneath water trying to build his lung capacity. They are finding some of the techniques that other pro players use in other sports, and they're utilizing them to increase their chances at winning on this Handball Pro Tour. 16-8 is the serve. Andy still can serve it. He has 10 seconds.
16-8.
Referee gave him another count.
That's a good return from Emmett. One of the few opportunities he's had to actually hit a defensive return. All the serves from Andy have been so devastating. Strange play there from Emmett. Could have easily taken that with his right.
17 plays 8.
Emmett, Dave, I believe, is having a hard time processing the speed of the ball right now. As you know, Dave, when you're not used to seeing the ball move that fast, things just seem to be happening so quickly that you can't even do anything but react. And I think Emmett's in that reactionary mode right now. Emmett plays his best when he's in that relaxed frame of mind where he can control the game with the high ceiling balls and the kills, and that's an amazing revolving door kill from Andy Nett.
Let's listen for the score here from the referee. We apologize, there's no scoreboard for this match.
18 plays 9.
18-9. I'll explain it later, why we don't have it.
You know, Dave, it's Andy Nett leading 18-9, but it doesn't even feel that close. It just feels like Andy Nett's completely dominating the action here. He's just hitting great shots here, Dave. Virtually every shot he hits is a great shot. Andy's one of those guys, Dave, that people say, well, you know, you just keep the ball high and wrap the ball around. Then you find out, well, hey, he can hit great ceiling shots and great wraparounds also. It's not as though you're automatically winning points by pushing the ball up to the ceiling or wrapping the ball around, because Andy's got a great overhand game. And he's tall, Dave. He uses that
18.
height very well on those ceiling balls.
That ball just jumped up. Andy did have a play on it. Would have been tough. I think he gave up a little early.
11 plays 18.
11-18. Emmett Peixoto serving. First game. Rally scoring. Best 2 out of 3 to 25. Breaker also to 25. Between game timeouts, 3 minutes, and you play all bad bounces here.
I thought that was a pass. It was, you had your
I
lane.
disagree with our referee there. That definitely looked like a screen.
You were able to see
maybe a
with the
hinder.
lane. He was right in
Definitely
front of you.
thought that
He
should have
hit
been
the lane.
replayed.
Referee is not going to give that to Andy Nett, and Andy Nett's going to call a timeout.
It's your first timeout. I'll look for it. It's scores 12-18.
I don't know where Dave Fink is going, but I believe he's going to go talk to the referee right here. Let's look at this replay, if we can, of that screen call that either did or did not happen. This is brought to you by Simple Green. I saw Andy sweep across the court here, and it'll be on this shot. Watch what Andy does. He kind of flinches. It's a very difficult ball to call a screen or not call a screen. I think it's just one of those difficult shots altogether. Emmett Peixoto congratulating the referee for calling it correctly with a smile. It's the WPH Simple Green Race for 8 as we are live right now in Los Angeles. Emmett Peixoto called the timeout. Andy called the timeout. Now we're over 1 minute
20
here.
seconds, Andy.
Over 1 minute, and the referee says 20 seconds. Referee does have the stopwatch. Emmett Peixoto back in the box here at 12-18. I thought when you jumped up, Dave, that you were going to go talk to the referee there.
I thought that you thought I was going to do that.
And I was going to grab your shirt tail and say, no, just let this go.
But then you found out I was going to get you food, and you
all of a
pushed
sudden,
me
everything
out
changed.
the door.
Yes, everything changed.
Yes, you gave me a nice running start there when you found out I was going to the cafe.
Well, I've been known to push people toward food for the duration of my life.
Emmett now
13
quietly
plays 18.
working his way back into this first game. He found himself way behind. And Emmett
I didn't
Had a
think
good
he
look
crossed
at
the
that.
line. You
He's
can appeal that
appealing that Andy Nett
Did he
crossed
cross
the
the line?
short line as he made contact with that serve. I don't think he did.
with his hand. Did you see it? And then Chip didn't see it.
Let's take a look at it here, David. His hand cannot cross the line
I
before he
just
hits
looked
the
for
ball.
His foot. I didn't see his hand. Yeah.
Hard to tell from that angle.
Yeah, it's a very subjective call, even if you were able to do it. The only
What?
way you could, I would say, is that
19
you'd have to have a
13.
camera right on that
Yeah.
that line, and you'd have to have video replay.
I don't think Emmett wasn't ready for that serve, and we'll see if the referee gives Andy another first serve.
Yeah,
because
I called the score, so that's a short.
I'm surprised at that call because
What was that?
Emmett's laughing. He knew he wasn't ready to return there, and Emmett would have caught that serve. He wouldn't have
Well,
played
yeah,
it.
because I called the score. He came back.
And I think Andy held up there, and I think that's why it was short. And Emmett's not saying first serve.
Kind of an interesting
Second serve.
chain of events going on right now here with the referee, who's not very seasoned here on this Race for 8 tour, and he's been anchoring most of our matches so far today. This is his second out of the 3 matches, and the other one was the one he played in.
To his credit, Dave, our referee, Vic Perez, has improved dramatically since his first stint as a referee in Fresno, where I thought he really struggled. The experience that Vic has gained in the last couple tournaments has actually increased his
14 plays
credibility
19.
and also his ability to referee.
Now, what would happen if Andy would have got that ball over the line, though, on that call? Would the referee say, well, he wasn't ready and I made a mistake and let's do it over?
That's what I believe would have happened. I don't believe Emmett would have made an attempt to return it. I couldn't see the referee saying, well, you know, the score was called and that's a point, because Emmett was actually looking back towards the back wall and the score was called.
Short.
Andy's lost just a little bit of zip on his shots right now, Dave. I'd say between 3 and 5%,
serve.
and it's enough to allow Emmett to get himself back into this game. And I like that serve from Andy. Z serve into Emmett's right hand. And that's amazing power from Andy. Emmett runs it down.
Hold it. Replay.
Ooh, that's tough.
I agree with that call. Andy needed to hold that ball a little closer to the wall and hit a little bit lower. That ball came out towards the middle. Emmett couldn't have done
20
anything with
plays
that, but I think he
14.
could have got his hand on that shot.
Boy, that serve from
And look
Nett
at that
is
amazing
dangerous.
fist pass from Andy Nett out of the air, Dave.
Well, then he has to thread the needle
21
because he
plays
could
14.
hit himself. He has to keep it away from himself, but still tight.
Well, it's a small window.
Check ball.
Emmett had a pretty good look at a left corner kill there. He could have hit that kill straight down the left wall or into the corner, but instead he hits
It's broken ball.
Andy.
Oh.
Andy wanted to give the referee the ball there, Dave, because it was so wet it hit Andy. Sometimes when the ball is that wet, you don't want to wipe it off with your gloves because then your gloves will become wet.
Well, and you just can't
Yeah,
get
I'll
the
use
ball dry. That's
Mhm.
another thing. I mean,
All right.
it's so wet that you just look for somebody that can. You look for somebody that can have something that's a little bit less, you know, damp than what you're wearing. I mean, Andy's wearing a wet shirt. He just doesn't want to be involved at all. Let the referee do it. I agree.
Second serve.
Andy Nett.
Oh, yeah, that's right. My bad.
Wearing
It's
that.
actually a first serve. I don't know why the referee called a second
21
serve.
plays 14.
Yeah, he's giving it back. First serve,
Okay.
21-14.
That was a replay because Emmett hit Andy there.
Short.
Ooh, that ball was smoked.
I like that Andy's going with his serve back down the right. I've
Second
seen Andy
serve.
go away from that serve down the right. Maybe it's because of those arm troubles, but I saw Andy going to that serve to the left, which I don't think is as effective, even though he's serving into his opponent's strong hands down the right. Emmett's still not comfortable taking the ball out of the air with his right hand yet, Dave.
Well, that's why you're seeing Andy just pelt those balls down that right wall.
Well, Andy does his research, Dave. He watches a lot of film, and he studies all these players. He has a game plan going in. And Andy completely overhitting that.
Emmett turns around, takes the first ball of that rally with his left hand and ends the rally. And that's the reason why you don't want to hit to Emmett's left. I wonder why Emmett doesn't serve with his left hand and try to develop something with that. I think if he were
15 plays 21.
able to do it right, he could put a ball in a
Short.
bad position for his opponent and then capitalize up front with first strike.
Second serve.
I think it's similar to Alan Garner, Dave. That's a terrible serve from Emmett. But similar to Alan Garner, who hits the ball better with his left, but he serves better with his right. Feels more comfortable serving with his right.
Smart play from Andy Nett. Pushes the ball
Well,
back
Andy
down
should
the
have
right
won
wall.
this rally 2 or 3 times already, Dave. He had huge setups, and it looks like now Emmett's in control. That is until you hit a 90-mile-per-hour blast, but that's way off the back wall. Andy's overswinging right now, Dave, and Emmett will take advantage of that.
This is the WPH Simple Green Race for 8, game number 1, rally scoring.
16 plays 21.
You heard the score from referee Vic Perez. There's that off-balance left hand from Andy Nett. For that one, he was really off balance. The only thing Emmett can do with that
Hold
big,
it,
powerful
replay.
90-mile-per-hour return from Andy Nett
Replay.
is to just flip it back.
I called replay on the last one over here. Yeah, you guys were kind of close. All right, it's your second timeout. Score is 16-21.
Andy Nett makes a pretty good point here. He said that ball's being replayed, and Andy said it's the same one I called for last time that you wouldn't give me. The referee said, yep. Well, referee listened to Andy and took his advice. Andy was lobbying for that to be a screen, so the referee gives him the screen, and this time Andy wishes that he wouldn't have given him the screen ball. Sometimes be careful what you wish for. You're watching this live broadcast at race48.com. These are the earlier round matches, the round of 12, as we like to call them, since this is a special 12-man tournament. Not all of the fans, not all of the supporters and volunteers have made this event yet, and that's why you're not seeing the stands packed at this moment, but they will get to a point where it'll be standing room only as we narrow ourselves down to the quarterfinals and the semifinals, especially here in this round of 12 match between Marco Chavez and Charlie Shanks.
Andy, you got 20
I
seconds.
know that the intranets will be packed as well, as people across Ireland will be tuning in to watch Charlie Shanks, and those here in Southern California will just try to get down here to watch courtside as Marco Chavez will go up against Charlie Shanks. That will be an incredible matchup for you to catch today at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. That one is number 5, Charlie Shanks, versus the number 12 seed.
16 plays 21.
And Marco Chavez is usually never a number 12 seed.
Well, Dave, Marcos is not actually the number 12 seed. He's technically tied for 9th as the blind draw qualifiers just draw. He wasn't actually seeded.
17 plays 21.
But he gets the 12th position off of that blind draw.
Right.
Now, if we were to seed this tournament, subjectively, he would have been maybe around 6 if we were to take all the rankings out of the mix. That looked like it was short. No call.
I called it good. Chip disagrees. They both disagree.
Good call from our lines people overturning that mistake. And that's a tough call for the ref to see. You can see he's in the right of our picture there. He's looking over Andy Nett's shoulder there, trying to call that short ball. And I think Andy was obstructing his view just a little bit because that ball was well short.
You saw it short? I have 3 people saying it was a short.
But Emmett now making a charge here. Andy Nett has had a lot of opportunities, has not put the ball away, and I think that's a sign of nerves.
Second serve.
From Andy Nett.
The ball was clearly short, so the right call was made. I just don't like how they went about it.
And that time Andy Nett crushes a ball. And I think Andy's saying he was a little bit lucky there to catch the front wall and sidewall simultaneously, and the ball popped straight down the wall. Looked like it was going to hit the front wall, sidewall, or the corner, and that's what Emmett was playing for, but instead
22 plays 18.
Andy gets the break. But I don't know if it's that much of a break when you hit the ball that hard, Dave. A lot of times that happens.
True. Yeah, I don't know if that's a bad break at all.
Good things happen when you hit the ball 100 miles per hour.
My old baseball coach once said, swing as hard as you can in case you hit it. I kind of think it's the same sort of thing. Andy hits that ball so hard, sometimes that is his weapon. Look at that pre-dive from Andy Nett.
Unbelievable get there, Dave.
This is where Andy's strong.
Amazing get from Andy Nett.
When he hits the floor, he wins over 78% of the rallies this year on the tour.
And somehow Emmett fights off a huge reverse, hit at 92 miles per hour from Andy Nett. I think Dave just trying to get his hand on that ball. And fortunately for Emmett, it rolls out almost right in front of him.
19th place, 22.
And Andy didn't think his return was going to make the front wall, but it did. Wouldn't have mattered, though, as Emmett rolls it out an inch high.
20th place, 22.
Emmett trying to be just the second guy in rally scoring, Dave, to be
That's
behind.
Your last timeout. Scores 21-22.
21, to have his opponent reach 21 first and come back and win that game. It just hasn't happened this season.
Emmett Peixoto on a huge comeback at this moment. It's not monumental, but at one point it was Andy Nett leading 21-16, and now Andy Nett has 22 and Emmett Peixoto has 21. You see the scoreboard powered by Zions, the official sports drink of the UFC. Zions is online at XYIENCE, and check them out, their sports drink called Zenergy, at your local favorite retail outlet, as I do every morning. Always like to get myself one of those. They have different flavors, and it's all natural. You're watching the Los Angeles Athletic Club.
15 seconds.
Stop number 7, the WPH Race for 8. There's 7 stops that act as qualifiers for the main event at the Washington Athletic Club in Seattle.
'21 place, 22. Screen. That was a screen.
Emmett Peixoto could qualify for Seattle, Dave, by beating Andy Nett, then beating Luis Moreno, and if Andy Nett were then to go on and lose his first round of the playoffs. Of course, Emmett would also qualify if he won the event. Strange bounce, and it's a big setup for Andy. He overhits it, and there's the gettability from Emmett. Puts the ball in a strange spot, and here's a setup.
Emmett overhit that ball. Wow.
And Andy Nett with an amazing whip kill there, Dave. He just held that to the last possible second and just whipped it. Just 2 inches high. Unbelievable shot there.
Now Andy serving here at 23-21.
That was, I believe, the pivotal moment here in this first game.
21.
I think Andy Nett is in control here right now. If Emmett won that last rally, Dave, I think Emmett goes on to win this game.
Nice serve right there from Andy Nett, and a point now, 24-21. Nett serving to take game number 1.
Andy Nett needs to just win one of the next 4 rallies to win this game. Emmett's going to take a little bit of time and ice the Minnesota Dreamboat by wiping the floor. It's hard to see, actually, Dave, the wet spots on this floor. It's a light wood, and it's very bright, so you almost can't see it. You know, on some courts you see the big puddle of sweat. Other courts like this one, it's hard to even find it.
'24 game point, serves 21.
Here it is, game point. Andy Nett serving. Nice serve right there.
I think our cameraman was expecting an ace, didn't even bother to follow the ball. And this is a big setup for Andy. And he gets it. Andy Nett really playing great handball there, Dave, in the first game. Emmett Peixoto not playing bad handball by any means, but Andy Nett was just too much there. Too much offense, too much power, and too focused for Emmett Peixoto. I am predicting, Dave, another tiebreaker here, and I'm not going to go ahead and predict a winner.
We are going to take a timeout. We'll be back in less than 3 minutes. Stay here at racefor8.com for game number 2 on the way. And we are back live for game number 2. Emmett Peixoto serving to Andy Nett. Both wearing the light shirts here. You see
0-0.
Andy Nett wearing that limited edition Fred Lewis Pro Tour shirt with Fred's signature underneath the name, which is Andy Nett paying tribute to the game's greatest players.
Emmett winning his first point with an ace here, and now a left-handed back wall kill. Remember, he won his first 2 points in game number 1 on Andy Nett double faults.
2-0.
Emmett did not lose his traditional arrogance in between games, Dave. Basically saying that Andy Nett is just
3-0.
played unbelievable that game, but doesn't seem like he feels anxious or nervous about losing this match.
Second serve.
Emmett did come back and control the second half of that first game, even though he ended up losing it. Also said that he felt like he just can't come back and rally scoring, even though he did come back. So it's one of those things, Dave. He was down big. He came all the way back to 22-21, had a chance to tie it at 22 before Andy Nett closed him out. And Andy Nett, Dave, with consecutive flat rollouts, one with the left hand, another with the right. And Emmett knew he was going there. That was his only shot, and he kills it right in front of Emmett. I believe this Andy Nett that we're seeing right now, Dave, is a threat to beat anyone in this event. We saw Andy Nett in Tucson at race stop number 3, Dave, defeat me, and then go on and almost beat Luis Moreno, who's the #1 player in the world right now, losing to Luis Moreno 21-17, 21-20. So he was right there in that match.
Well, he's certainly streaky. But his streaks usually happen from tournament to tournament, not necessarily in the middle of a tournament. That was a awful, sloppy rally right there.
Well, Andy Nett pinches the left corner twice with Emmett right in front of him, which is a terrible shot, particularly with your offhand when you can't generate enough to keep the ball down in that corner. And then Emmett inexplicably misses a right-hand setup from the server's box.
Hear the referee telling one of the fans in the stands to watch their language. Now, listen, there's some players that are streaky in the tournament where they get hot while they're playing, and then they get cold really fast while they're playing. Andy Nett seems to be hot for tournaments. The whole tournament he seems to be hot, and then he's not for other tournaments.
I agree with you.
And this is sort of one of those hot tournaments as it looks for Andy Nett, where maybe it might be circa Tucson, Arizona in November.
Well, I think Andy Nett was hot in
Idaho,
the U.S. Open, and Tucson, and I think he's been cold since up until this match. And now Emmett looks really deflated right now.
I thought he wanted it.
He gives Andy the shot and the point. Could have been called either way, but at this point, Dave, he can't take that point off the board.
Really?
This is one of those confusing plays. The crowd will give a round of applause because Andy's giving that point back to Emmett.
Andy gave that point back?
They're taking it over.
If you would have missed that, I would have said you would have taken it. So, yeah. So I'm gonna call point. I'll call point. And the next
now the round of applause is going to have to be taken back. Now, should they boo?
No, the round of applause was for the shot. Emmett was being sarcastic. He was being ironical.
Short.
That's going to be appealed, but it actually was a short ball.
Short.
You have to think, Dave, all those short balls that Andy Nett hits down the right are all aces in one wall. You have to think if he went to the one-wall nationals, how could you ever even return that serve? Because every serve he hits is an ace. The one-wall short line is only 16 feet, Dave.
Terrible shot from Andy Nett, and he deserves to have Emmett punch that ball down the right wall.
And he still had a play in that ball. I don't know why he gave up on it.
I think the ball is fading.
4 play 6.
4 serve 6 here. This is very early on. We saw a huge comeback from Emmett Peixoto.
But as Yogi Berra says, it can get late early.
Second serve.
And it could get late early for Emmett Peixoto here if things continue on this trajectory. Emmett off to a nice start in this game with 2 great kills, but it's been all Andy Nett. And there's the inside out.
I like that shot from Andy.
His first timeout
He
score
pushes
is
Emmett toward the
7-4,
middle of the
1
court, and then
minute.
he pokes it back down that right
You're
wall.
one
You're
injury
watching the
timeout?
WPH Simple
That's
Green
15 minutes,
Race
right?
for 8 live in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
We had one of the deepest draws of the year in the qualifier. Those that are trying to be named the Elite 8 in the Player Championship scheduled for May
Was it
18th
contact
and
in the shot? It
19th of
looked like he wanted it
2012
'cause
at
it
the
was a
LAAC
setup
in
and then-
Seattle. Joel Carlson
Oh yeah,
is
next
your
time help me out with
contact
the
if you'd like to
contact 'cause I
purchase
can't really see
tickets
it from this
at
angle.
206-660-9878. Get a pen, get a pencil, write this down. 206
Yeah. If you would have missed it, I would have said
660-9878. Joel Carlson is also on email. That's joel.carlson, CARLSON @yahoo.com. The Los Angeles Athletic Club, along with world players of handball, Simple Green, Nadia Alvarado and family, as well as Paul Godina, Marco Chavez,
How long do you need for
and
your
those that
injury?
have helped us here
You ready?
should get recognition for allowing us to have this great Race for 8 stop. Top 12 now being broadcast live until the Saturday night finals. That will kick off at 4 o'clock. Now here tomorrow there will be a junior clinic at 1 o'clock. Now we weren't sure if they allowed juniors in the club. We didn't know what the rules are. Some places you go to, they don't allow it.
All right,
They actually have a junior group of about 10 players that are going to come down that have been selected through qualifiers to come into this prestigious
7 plays 4.
event and have a tutorial from the pros. All right, to remember this, Dave, the players that are selected as we watch this rally develop, good no call from the ref up there.
And Emmett's really having a hard time with that reinvention. The Andy Nett inside-out drive down the right wall, but go ahead, Dave.
The players in Seattle, every single one of the top 8 that will be named, when they accept that invite, they're also accepting the opportunity to get on the court and play with the sponsors and the juniors with clinics that will be built into that event. That was one of the big specific things that the sponsors said. Will the 8 get into the court with the sponsors? Will they get in with the kids? And the answer is yes.
It's certainly a great opportunity for the sponsors, the kids, and the pros to show their appreciation. But let's take a quick instant replay. That last play, it looked like Emmett hit a kill in the right corner. Andy Nett, diving and swinging simultaneously, hits a passing shot behind Emmett back down the left. That was an incredible shot, Dave.
You know, when Andy dives for a ball, he doesn't just hit it up front. He hits it with power. There's a lot of players that go for kills. There's some players that'll flip it up, but we forget to mention those players that go in for like these driving pass shots, and that's what Andy does when he dives for a ball. Both of these players wearing their white WPH shirts. It's like they color coordinated.
It's true. And Andy with a big opportunity there to stretch the lead. And I think if you're Andy Nett fans, you like Andy taking that shot because that's his game. Great return there from Andy. Here's a setup.
Hold it, replay.
Ooh, that's a tough one to replay.
That's just a terrible call, Dave. One of the worst I've seen. And Emmett knows he got away with one. You see him jump back into that box quickly. That's a ball that Emmett had no play on whatsoever. And Vic nodding as though he made a good call. He didn't.
5 plays 9.
Vic said, I should have called it earlier. Well, if you would have called it earlier, it would have looked worse.
Let's see if the handball justice judges reward Andy with this rally after being stripped of that last rally.
I think that if he wasn't in the way, Emmett would have not even been close.
Look at that amazing 2-wall pass shot. And that ball is actually picking up speed off the side wall.
I think the handball gods.
I didn't know you were so religious. That's why I was talking about the judges.
I called them the handball gods.
Oh, okay, so it's not necessarily, it's a figure of speech.
The gods of handball.
Second serve.
I am not handball. I'm just a fat man that talks about it.
Short.
Another double fault from Andy Nett.
Short. Yeah.
That was definitely
short. They both agree.
Third double fault in a game and a half for Andy Nett.
6 play 10.
That was a crucial mistake there for Andy. And another crucial error. I thought Andy should have taken that with his left hand.
7 play 10.
I believe, Dave, that could be a turning point in this match. And now Andy completely overhitting balls.
This will be 3 straight points if Emmett converts this up front shot right here. Or this one.
I don't know why Emmett's taking that on the way up when he could have played that off the sidewall. And how does Andy Nett miss that shot, Dave?
I think Andy thinks the ball's broken. But that's 3 straight points for Emmett Peixoto here.
And the ball is broken.
Broken ball. Hold on.
But why doesn't Emmett let this come off the side wall? That's not a good shot. And then Andy Nett maybe knew the ball was broken there, Dave, but still makes a really strange error. This could actually benefit Andy Nett. A new ball here, Dave. Andy Nett gets into that server's box with a new ball, and he's got an extra 5 miles per hour of zip on that serve. That could be a huge advantage to Andy Nett. Not to mention the extra zip he'll have during the rally.
I agree with you.
Emmett's the type of player, Dave, that is more well-suited to play with a dead ball. Andy Nett obviously wants that ball as fast as possible. And Andy Nett's very
7, play 10.
squirrely with those balls. He's always thinking about the ball's not bouncing right. It's one of those little quirks that Andy Nett has. I know you've seen that, Dave. You mark those down.
Yeah, I'm always interested to see why players fiddle with the glove or the doorknob, and you would say, why don't you just focus on the game? And I know the ball is part of the game, but Andy, out of all the players, really likes to observe it and see if it's round, and seems to play with it more than any other player that's on the tour right now, other than Nadi Alvarado Jr., who also
11, play
is what
7.
I call a fiddler. 11 serves 7. If the shirt is a little too tight, they'll change it, and that's what they're thinking about while they're serving. That's the thing.
Andy Nett with a terrible error there. That was an easy shot. Should have slowed down his swing a little bit there, Dave, as the ball pops off the side wall so slowly. But instead he rushes his swing and shanks the ball directly into the floor. Here's a big setup for Andy.
Andy's giving some free points to Emmett, but then takes one back right here. Now at 12-8, Andy Nett here in the second game, trying to go into the quarterfinals by defeating Emmett Peixoto after winning the first one.
I believe Emmett is just completely exhausted right now, Dave.
Plays 8.
He's not able to let the ball drop and shoot anything. I know Emmett, Dave, has not had an opportunity to train much coming into this event. He did have a death in his family, and he went back to California for a couple of weeks, kind of got out of his routine. I'm certainly not making excuses, but Emmett was so fit in Salt Lake City. He told me he was working out 2.5 hours a day every day leading up to that event. In this event, he's done virtually nothing. So it's been almost 3 weeks of inactivity, and I just think that Emmett's completely gassed right now.
13, plays 8.
And this is where Andy has to recognize that Emmett just not fresh right now. And this is where he's got to actually put his foot down and step on Emmett if he wants to win this match, because Emmett has a second win coming.
13. Nice call.
And Andy Nett
Point.
missing another lob serve return. Emmett's not been able to put the ball down, Dave, so if Andy Nett can just keep the rallies alive, he's got a good chance to win them. But by just handing Emmett points with double faults and those kind of just strange errors where he's not even returning the ball to the front wall on mediocre lob serves, that's the kind of thing that will allow Emmett mentally to get back into this match.
Listen for the score from the referee here.
10, plays 13.
This one far from over, Dave.
I agree.
Both players don't seem like they want to do
Beautiful
anything
shot
until
there
I
from
made that comment, Dave.
11, plays 13.
And Andy could not have hit that return in a worse spot. Off the back wall to Emmett's left hand. Big setup here for Andy. And Andy with an amazing inside-out kill shot down the right wall. Emmett actually had a slight play on that ball, but that ball was just hit so hard.
Towel?
And you're seeing now, Dave, the towel coming into the court a lot. Emmett sweats profusely, Dave, and when he's serving, there's a puddle of sweat that gathers right in the middle of that service box where he stands to serve. And as a result, you see the towel having to come into the court after virtually every time Emmett serves. And look at that unbelievable technique there. I said that Emmett had a play on that ball. He actually didn't. It bounced twice before he was anywhere near it. But Andy Nett hitting the ball so well right now, Dave, that even though Emmett knows where he's going with his shots, he still can't do anything with it.
14 plays 11.
Score there called from the referee, Vic Perez, 14-11. Looked like a little slide over there on the right wall.
And Emmett telling me between games, Dave, why does everyone have to play their best against me? Why can't anybody ever have an off day? And I think he's getting himself into that mentality of almost feeling sorry for himself. Why does this guy have to be playing so well? As a competitor, Dave, you want to go in there and have your opponent play their absolute best every time you play them and expect them to play their absolute best.
Well, that comment from Emmett after that shot from Andy was priceless, although we can't really re-air it or say exactly what he said, but it was funny.
And now Emmett's starting to punch his hand. That's really the last stage of frustration for Emmett Peixoto.
16 plays 11.
16-11.
It's actually a left punch into the right hand is when Emmett really starts to unravel. Although I've seen him punch his hand and come back and win matches. This is incredible rally.
And Andy gets it, but doesn't get back to the front wall. And Emmett's looking back saying, what's going on here? Now, you're saying that Andy is not at the level of the get artistry that Emmett Peixoto once was at?
That was a half an hour ago.
Foul.
Things have changed in the last half hour.
I mean, that's why I say on paper these two match up so well. Andy Nett is a get artist. And he's proven it right here.
All right,
Andy Nett was on the floor for the last 20 seconds of this rally.
Scores 12-16.
Let's take a look at the rally again one more time.
Well, let's go back into live action.
No, it's a timeout.
Okay.
That's why we're going to look at it again, brought to you by Simple Green. The reason why I say this is after Andy makes the first dive, what type of guts does it take for a player to look right down the barrel of that shot? And if we do get that live feed again, I might have confused a little bit the computer that gives us the automatic replay. I'm in the middle of the replay asking for another replay, and I think it's kind of slowed up. But if we can look back again, Andy Nett's on the ground. He turns around and looks right down that gun. Emmett Peixoto could have hit that ball right into Andy's face. Now, here it's a second dive, I believe. Here it is right here. Look, just looking straight at that ball come off Emmett's hand.
Well, it's like when you're a spectator at a professional golf event, Dave. These spectators are standing 2 feet from the player hitting. If the player hits the ball even slightly, it's going to take their eye out. But they know these guys won't make those kind of mistakes, or at least they hope.
Until the time that it actually happens. Then you could be that one guy that got hit by a golf ball from John Daly. You know, so
unless you know that it could happen and you would never put yourself in that position. Similar to the first game, Dave, Andy Nett with a lead. He had a bigger lead in the first game. Actually led 17-9. Beautiful shot from Emmett, off balance. A little bit fortunate there too. He wasn't aiming for the corner, but he was aiming 2 inches high, and he hit the ball 2 inches high. But you have to recognize, Dave, that if you're Emmett, that, you know, Andy Nett may have gotten a couple of good breaks, but he's also gotten a couple of good breaks. It's not as though one guy is making all the fortunate shots. It's going both ways, as you just saw with Emmett, making that back wall kill into the right corner absolutely flat. He was aiming about 10 feet left of that spot.
listen for the score called by the referee.
13 plays 16.
Emmett's only down by 3 here, Dave. He's not going to go away.
Hold it, replay, replay.
You agree with that?
I do, actually, yeah. I think Emmett made a huge mistake not ending that rally there.
13 plays 16.
In a great position. I thought Andy should have driven that ball, Dave. At least put some pressure on Emmett there, because this is what Emmett wants, is this kind of ceiling rally. You see Andy makes the mistake going to the ceiling, and I believe Emmett does have an advantage going to the ceiling. Even if Andy Nett drives that awkward shot with his right hand straight down the right wall, it forces Emmett moving away and into that right wall rather than putting the ball on a tee form to the ceiling.
I agree.
Hold it, replay, replay. Hold it.
Now, what's your thoughts on a player who's standing to the left
You guys were kind of
after
close.
the
I thought
shot
you couldn't really
runs
see it.
across the player on a ball that's not hit high off the front wall? That ball was only hit about 6 feet off the front wall. The whole path of that ball was obstructed. Emmett hit it immediately, went across, but you
14
can't
plays
see any of the
16.
flight of the ball. Shouldn't Emmett stay to the left if he's going to hit that ball?
Well, I think it should have been a no call.
Well, Andy wasn't happy. He wanted an avoidable. So you're saying no call, referee calls a screen. Maybe that's the best thing. Go between the two, between avoidable and no call, and call it a screen. I mean, I find it interesting that one player wants the avoidable. You think it's a no call, referee calls it a screen.
And Andy Nett with the perfect pass. It just clips the back wall about 2 inches high, and Emmett has no play on it. But Emmett has made a great comeback, just as he did in game number 1, Dave, coming back from a pretty big deficit, and he tied the score. Now it's Andy Nett leading 17-16.
We're watching the WPH Simple Green Race for 8 at the Los Angeles Athletic Club, a tournament put on by Simple Green and Nadi Alvarado, plus local sponsors here and the World Players of Handball.
Let's not forget, Dave, in Andy Nett's last 3 events, he's lost to Victor Perez in the qualifier. He lost to George Garcia in the qualifier. And he lost to me in the round of 16 in Atlanta. So he's been on a losing streak. And now here he is taking on the former world #1 and looking really good. He's dominated the whole way. And Emmett's going to that back wall into the front wall flip here. And that was caused, that hand air, Dave, was caused by an Andy Nett huge natural that jumped away from Emmett. I'm surprised Emmett didn't read that, but sometimes you know the natural's coming, but you still don't play for it.
18 play 15.
That's the first fly kill that Emmett has actually killed with his right hand that I've seen in his comeback.
16 play 18.
At a crucial moment, too.
Emmett down by 2. This will go revolving door.
Check ball.
Fortunate there for Emmett. That ball got a little bit too far away from Andy there, and he wasn't able to take the ball back down the left. Down the left would have been the best play there with Emmett 18. On the right side of the court. It's a pretty good return. But Emmett flattens it anyway.
I'm surprised. It was a good return, but why wouldn't Andy just load up and hit it? I mean, it wasn't like Emmett hit that as a power serve.
17 play 18.
It just forced Andy into a slightly awkward swing. Force him into more of that scoop type of swing.
I just don't understand why he's scooping that. Why doesn't he just...
That's the play right there, Dave, why I say that Andy's not at the get level of Emmett, because you see how he doesn't read that ball into the corner. He's not even close to it on a ball that I think he should have had.
Well, Nett was up at one point here, 16-11, and I believe the score is tied. Or
18 play 18.
Yes. But Emmett puts just enough reverse on that serve down the left, Dave, where you can't get a full swing on the ball.
Okay.
And now it's Emmett taking his first lead since he led 2-0 in this second game.
In fact, Emmett is on an 8-2 run at the moment.
Emmett didn't lead at all in game number 1, and now he's led for just the 3rd time here at.
And it's really, not to interrupt you there, but it's set up from that serve that he's giving to Andy, who's just shoveling the ball back, and he's getting points off of that.
That's true. Emmett's finally found a serve here in the middle of the second game that's causing Andy some problems, and he's taken a little bit off that reverse. And as a result, the ball's not coming off the back wall to Andy's right hand. Andy's forced to play that ball off the bounce. And as you've seen, he's scooping the ball now, giving Emmett a lot of opportunity to either dictate the rally or just first strike and end the rally.
Margie Peixoto, you see her on the right side of the screen. She's a lot like Jimmy London. When she's at a tournament, she makes every camera shot, every angle. She's always in it. She finds that perfect position. Some people go out there and try to find the most comfortable seat in the house.
Yeah.
Others find the one that's just going to be in the view no matter what happens. That's sort of, I guess you would call it a camera magnet.
19 plays 18.
And that shows a lack of confidence right now in the Andy Nett left hand that he's scooping that return each time.
Well, I'm wondering why he doesn't just punch it. If he's going to do that return, punch a fist.
And Emmett with just a terrible error there, Dave. I thought he should have taken a step back and let the ball drop a little bit more and then gone for the kill, but instead he goes for an overhand splat, I think you call it, Dave. And that's a three-wall shot, but in 3-0 you hit that shot higher and drive the ball out of the court. 4-wall, it's a little different because you have to spike the ball, hit a little bit lower. Just a terrible serve there from Andy Nett at an awful time for it.
Andy hits that power serve down that wall, but I wonder why the referee doesn't look at that, his proximity to that right wall, and call a screen on that serve. 20 to 19. And I'm also surprised why Andy doesn't serve down the left with a reverse.
I agree with you. That's an amazing shot there from Andy. And these players now trading side outs, which are points, and they're both giving each other setups. Each time Andy's serving, he's giving Emmett a setup, and every time Emmett's serving, he's giving Andy a setup in these last 4 rallies.
Now, why doesn't Andy go behind himself here?
Well, the only time I can remember Andy going behind himself in this match, Dave, he hit himself with the ball on the serve.
20 plays 20.
But see, Emmett has to play to the right to respect the referee who's not calling that screen.
I think it's difficult to locate that serve down the left when you haven't hit it all match. Andy nearly hit himself with that ball, but he hit that shot at the perfect pace where it didn't come up off the back wall.
Actually, he hit that ball and then had to make himself really thin.
Mm-hmm. That was the Beanpool Dreamboat. And let's take a quick instant replay of that if we can, Dave. This is the aggressive Andy Nett that I believe is at the top of his game when he looks to take the return and serve out of the air, even though this ball dips. And maybe Emmett could have played that off the bounce, Dave, and flipped it into the left side wall. Even if it comes off the back wall, and it doesn't have much of a play on it.
I think that Andy interfered a little bit there. Emmett looked like he came in and then maybe lost the ball, but I mean, Andy's wearing all white.
21 plays 20.
21 to 20, Andy serving.
I don't think that's a call that you make there.
I know you can't. Andy's going to go down the right here, but what happens if he breaks one down the left? Goes for
amazing
the crack
serve there for Andy. Emmett knows it's going there, Dave, and he catches that crack anyway.
Now Andy backing out more toward the middle of the court now. He was really closing the lane off earlier. Now he's slicing the court in half.
Well, it's giving him a different angle on that serve, which makes the serve actually a little bit different.
No call from the ref.
Andy overhits a setup with his right. And Andy just completely misreading that Emmett Peixoto two-wall shot right in front of him. That was actually another setup, Dave. Let's take an instant replay of that last point entirely, where it was Andy Nett really in control. Hit a couple of setups. Ball's coming off the back wall, and Emmett wins it with a sort of strange flip into the front wall, left side wall that Andy Nett was handcuffed on. Didn't really take any swing whatsoever at that shot. Here it is. Here's a setup that Emmett doesn't put away. Andy could have ended the rally right there, overhits it. Emmett with a back wall opportunity, takes control of the rally there. And inexplicably, Dave, that ball, I know that we're in super slow motion there, but it was pretty obvious that that ball was going to hit the front wall, side wall, and Andy Nett seemingly playing for the ball to come straight out without hitting the side wall, and it caught the side wall about 4 inches high, so I'm surprised he misread that shot so badly and wasn't even able to return the ball. And Emmett wins the rally and gets the point there. I believe, Dave, that the score is 20-22 coming in with Emmett serving.
No, I believe it's actually 21-22 with Emmett serving. Emmett Peixoto will have 21 because he gets that side out. He had 20. Now he's at 21. Now in the first game, he lost 25-21. So you can see these guys are pretty evenly matched up.
And don't forget, it was 22-21 at one point, so it was as close as it could have possibly been, and here we are again as close as it can possibly be. I know that our technician, our director here, put up 21, but we don't have that official yet.
Actually, it is official, but it was the reverse score. It's Andy Nett who has 22.
Okay.
It's Emmett who has 21. I'm actually keeping track on Facebook, so if you follow us on Facebook, I'm actually the alternative score keeper.
Oh, I still do believe it's 20, though. We'll hear.
21 plays 22.
Sorry.
Yep.
I hate when I'm
Short,
right like this.
short.
Actually, I hate when my Facebook
Short.
page is so dead on.
Well, I'm happy to learn. So
Well, you're not on Facebook anymore, or else you would have
learning
trusted in me.
experience for me.
Second serve.
Emmett trying to draw the score even here. After some amazing serves from Andy Nett, and he can't go E-Bible on that shot, unable to get it back to the front wall.
Unbelievable consecutive errors from Andy
22
Nett. I
plays
mean,
22.
I've never seen Andy Nett hit a ball between his legs. And at the most crucial point in his season, he does go between his legs. And now Emmett throwing some punches into the back wall. He'll need those in a couple weeks, Dave, at the NYAC.
23 plays
For the
22.
Super middleweight championship of the race for 8.
I heard that the race for 8 is actually going to announce at the Champagne Bath the alternates in case there are people who get injured between now and then. Oh, and Emmett goes for the crack and misses it. Now Andy Nett serving for the match at 24-22.
And who would have thought Dave Emmett, with all the experience, would make 2 consecutive errors on such easy setup opportunities?
24 match point serves 22.
Andy Nett will go for that right crack, Dave, I believe just over the short line.
See if he goes behind himself here. Nice dig from Andy Nett. Fought off from
Andy.
Emmett.
Emmett keeps the rally alive, and that's a big setup for Emmett.
Boy, Andy going all out here on this rally. Hit the floor again. That's 4 times. Just make it 5. Andy almost gets to it, and it's a side out. Now Emmett knows what it feels like to play him. Remember,
I don't know how you're feeling, Dave, but I've got the butterflies going up and down my body right now. It's just unbelievable excitement. And you realize what's on the line here, Dave. Emmett still has a possibility of going to Seattle.
Wow.
If he loses this match, he doesn't. Andy Nett could solidify his spot in Seattle with 1 more point here. And you wonder, Dave, does Andy Nett have anything left for the remainder of this second game after really pushing himself to the absolute limit during that rally?
We'll find out here after George Guevara, the 8th floor manager, gets onto the court to clean it off.
He's actually the coordinator. But Dave, let me ask you, how difficult is it for Andy Nett? You've been in this position where you're playing against somebody who's the favorite. You've had a match point, you didn't convert. How deflating is that? Can Andy Nett come back, put that behind him, and go ahead here and try and win this next rally to win this match? Very difficult.
It is very difficult to do, and especially when you feel that you've got a comfortable lead. And I'm not saying that 24-21 or 24-22 is comfortable, but here in rally scoring, it very well could be.
23 serves 24.
If there's a side out, Andy Nett wins. And there it is.
Nice.
Andy Nett takes the match.
That's Emmett's best shot there, Dave. The left hand into that left corner, and somehow Emmett makes 3 unforced errors, 3 balls that he would normally kill with his eyes closed, and Andy Nett wins the match on those Emmett Peixoto errors. Now, let's not take anything away from Andy Nett, who played a supremely amazing match, really, throughout the entire match. Unbelievable power, amazing offense, and amazing gets. But Emmett Peixoto hung in, but comes up short, just short in both games, Dave. 25-22, 25-23. It doesn't get any better than that.
Emmett Peixoto finds himself in the losing side of this amazing round of 16 action between himself and Andy Nett. Andy Nett advances. Now we'll play Luis Moreno tonight at 4 p.m. Coming up next, it'll be Marco Chavez, the local legend, the board member of the LAAC Handball Committee, up against Charlie Shanks. We'll have more action next. For Dave Fink, Omar Lemus, and Linda Manny, my name is Dave Vincent. Stick around. Handball coming up next at racefor8.com.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
We are different. Society should aspire to be more like us.
Be part of the first class. Get energized. Get outside.
Hold on, guys. It's gonna get bumpy.
And get moving. Experience the power of physical activity. Join the movement at ActionHeroAlliance.com.
For 20 years, the Inner City Handball Association has educated, mentored, and served young people through handball. Young people that participate in the Inner City Handball Association programs have a high graduation rate from high school and continue on to college. Inner City Handball teens are good athletes, good students, and good ambassadors for the sport of handball. We need your help to continue our work. Inner City Handball Association is a registered 501c3 tax-exempt charity. Please donate today. Thank you.